Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Fantasy Armchair Athletes live stream. My name is Corey, and this is Armchair Athletes, where I do plenty of fantasy analyses, case studies, and of course, I answer all of your fantasy questions in the comment section below. So, this is Week 15 perfect playoff matchups, matchups you just cannot deny. So, that's kind of what we're focusing on here. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms. Those links will be in the description. We've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, we've got Instagram, trying to expand beyond that as well. But also, if you are confident in your sports research like I am, make sure that you join Underdog Fantasy. You're going to want to hit that link in the description. You use promo code Corey0410 to get your deposit match dollar for dollar up to $100. Again, that code's in the description. CORY0410. It's a great app that lets you guess your overs and your unders, start parlays, and it gives you constant fantasy updates. There's a whole tab dedicated to that. So, for example, Ramondre Stevenson, he's hurt right now. You're going to want to track his status coming into this week. That's one app where you can do that. Be smart with your money. I understand that gambling addiction is very serious. I set aside a small amount of money for the month, and I don't go beyond it. There's plenty of other strategies and resources as well. Also, make sure that you check out the Start 2 Sit 1 YouTube short series that we do have going on. We're going to continue it going into tomorrow. So we've got quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. There will be some overlap with some of the names that I'm mentioning today. I'm about to explain why I'm doing this format of video in a second. But make sure that you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe coming into this video if you're getting any value out of the content I'm providing. I'm trying to help you out-research your opponent. And in the playoffs, it's pretty crucial. So I didn't want to keep going on waiver wire ads. If you've been on this channel for a couple months, you've noticed a pattern. I was doing 2 to 3 fantasy football live streams per week. I was doing waiver wire ads, people you should drop, and then a small live session before the noon kickoff slate, since that's when the majority of games start, right? With the exception of the Thursday game, and we've got a Saturday game this week, which should be pretty fun. I didn't want to keep doing waiver wire ads if you're in the playoffs, because you won't move the needle a ton by grabbing people who are working their way towards fantasy relevance. You're playing somebody in the top 4, top 6, top 8, basically top half of your league, and getting people who are just scratching the surface, who people we talked about before, like Isaiah Pacheco a couple weeks ago. He's bloomed well, but he was a project. We wanted to see how he would develop over the course of a couple weeks. We don't have that time anymore. We want established players, and we want favorable matchups, and that's what this video is dedicated to. So that's why you're kind of seeing a different format of video. And again, if you are in the comment section at all, make sure that you drop any questions you have. It's playoff time. Let me know your record. Let me know what the matchup situation looks like, and then just ask me. Usually I'm getting start or sit comments. I see Big Trev's in the chat. I'll get to you after I give these 6 options for a perfect playoff matchup. But yeah, make sure you drop those questions in the chat. I'm here to help you out, and I'm here to help you out-research your opponent. I guess I'd be doing it as well. Also, just want to let you guys know, if you noticed a shorter stream length last week, I did have finals going on. I'm a senior in college. I didn't want to cut down the amount of times I was streaming. I still wanted to put 2 streams out, but I was just juggling a ton. However, all of you have busy schedules just like I do, and you take the time to watch my content, so I should still be taking the time to make that content for you, trying to help all of you out. And going into the playoffs is pretty crucial to stream and put shorts out and give you guys as much advice and as much research-based information as possible. So I was making sure I'd still get it out. I'm on break now, so you're going to see a lot more content as we hit our stride going into the playoffs. Let's get into our quarterback. He's in the thumbnail. You know him. You love him. It's Herbie. Justin Herbert against the Tennessee Titans. Herbert has had at least 18 points in each of his last 4 games. He has 6 multi-passing touchdown performances, and he's QB9 right now in standard PPR format. He has been pretty good, if I'm being honest with you. If you look at him, the big thing with him is his receivers are all healthy at the same time. He's had some performances where it's 12, 13, 15, 16 points. You're like, what the heck? This is not what I signed up for. But he's back up to QB9 because he's got Keenan Allen. He's got Mike Williams. He's got Joshua Palmer. He's got Gerald Everett. He's got Austin Eckler. And that offense looks dangerous. Just look at what they did on Sunday Night Football against the Miami Dolphins. You know, somebody that was called a Super Bowl contender by Chris Collinsworth. I'm not saying they're not, but we saw what this offense was capable of. They were also going against a really vulnerable secondary, but it's another vulnerable secondary now. Justin Herbert gets to go up against a Tennessee defense, allowing the second most amount of fantasy points to quarterbacks. I love it. Let's go running backs. Let's go Isaiah Pacheco against Houston. There's a couple reasons I like this. For starters, he's been more involved in the passing game with at least 2 catches in each of his last 2 games. Doesn't sound like a lot, but he didn't have barely any catches in his reduced role before, even when he was starting to take over the running back 1 position from CEH. And I told all of you when he was one of my waiver wire ad suggestions, I'd say 3, 4, 5 weeks ago now, Be careful with Isaiah Pacheco. Don't start him in PPR right away because he wasn't involved in the pass catching game. He's a fast guy, and he's wearing number 10, so he's kind of got to live up to that. But I kind of wanted to feel him out as a pass catcher and see if he had any PPR upside. He's starting to get more involved. And then in terms of this matchup, why I like it so much, he's going up against the Houston Texans defense, allowing 4.8 yards a carry. That is 6th worst in the league. And I expect the Chiefs to win this matchup handily. I think most of you would agree. So game script-wise, you guys know how much I love running backs on winning teams. Pacheco should get more touches down the stretch. Let's stay in the backfield and go Ramondre Stevenson. Stevenson, we have to watch the monitoring, or we have to monitor his health right now. Got hurt in that game in prime time against the Cardinals not too long ago. He's working on a short week. So please, please, please monitor his status. I see he was walking through practice on Friday. A little concerning to me. If he does play, if Ramondre Stevenson does play, I love this matchup. Las Vegas is allowing 1.1 rushing touchdowns per game. Not to mention New England is the favorite in this matchup. And I could see them adapting a run-heavy scheme down the stretch if up. I mean, this is kind of the same argument that I had with Isaiah Pacheco. I expect New England to win this game pretty easily. Las Vegas has been choking left and right. They've looked better, but they got to win out. So maybe I'm wrong, but it's a pretty run-heavy scheme in general over in New England. I think they could definitely bolster that amount of runs if they're up against a very, very bad Las Vegas team. But they're bad on the ground and through the air, so maybe Mac Jones airs it out a little bit. Ramondre Stevenson's a pass catcher too, so we got to keep that in mind. But the combination of him being a pass catcher and going up against a Las Vegas team that allows over 1 rushing touchdown per game, I'm a big fan of that. Let's get outside the numbers and go to the wide receivers. We've got Keenan Allen against Tennessee. The wait for Keenan Allen was worth it. I put up a rant not too long ago about how I just hated how for 5, 6, 7 weeks we were seeing questionable next to Keenan Allen's name, only for him to be doubtful and then out by Sunday morning. It was worth it. He has scored at least 15 points in each of his last 3 weeks and at least 20 points in each of his last 2. Justin Herbert immediately goes to him as the number 1 option, even though Mike Williams has been phenomenal as well. Justin Herbert spreads the ball around very well, very fantasy friendly. Now he gets to face off against a Titans team that allows the most fantasy points to wide receivers. And this Chargers team is a fantasy goldmine. A lot of you have been asking me, Corey, what are you going to do when the football season is over? You are a fantasy football channel. I told you guys about the mock drafts idea. Middle of the summer, I'm going to be doing a 0 to Hero series. We'll see if I actually call it that. I'm going to draft the worst team possible. Like all backups, horrible players. From there, I'm going to show all of you that you can scrape plenty of wins across through the free agency market, through the trade market. I'll kind of define the parameters later on if I want it to be 10, 12, 14 team league, that type of thing. But I'm going to do that. I'm also going to do some leagues with you guys. But another offseason video I'm going to do, and why this made me think of this, fantasy goldmine teams. I would say the Chargers are one. I would say the Vikings are one. The Vikings, we're looking at Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, of course, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson. With the Chargers, we've got 4 to 5 great players as well. We've got Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler's running back, 1 in standard PPR right now because of that pass catching ability. Over 1,000 all-purpose yards already, 500 on the ground and through the air. We've got Mike Williams, we've got Keenan Allen, we've got Joshua Palmer, we've got Gerald Everett. We had DeAndre Carter for a bit too. So in general, I'm going to do some pretty cool videos on just different teams you want to go after, players on different teams, systems that are catered for a lot of guys to succeed in the skill position. I'll also be talking about 5 quarterbacks you should be drafting for the next 5 years, longevity things, guarantees. If they're on the board in a round where you feel they're suitable, you're going to go after them. 5 running backs, 5 wide receivers, 5 tight ends for the next 5 years. We'll be dissecting contracts, all that good stuff. So let's stay in the wide receiver position. I know that was a lot. Michael Pittman Jr. against Minnesota. That should not say Houston. That's my apologies. If you had any question about what the Minnesota Vikings' weakness was going into last week, you got your answer. It is their defense. The Lions tore them up. Jared Goff tore them up. I will not be comparing the Colts' offense to that of the Lions, but Michael Pittman Jr. is the number 1 wide receiver, and Matt Ryan, he's a volume passer. He throws the ball a lot. He's thrown it over 30 times in all but 1 game this year. Jonathan Taylor has not been as effective as he has been in years past, or just year past. His second year, he really broke out. He's doing better, but it's more of a pass-heavy offense. This team's losing a lot of games. I would expect Minnesota to win this, so I expect Michael Pittman Jr. to get a lot of touches, just because it's going to have to be a pass-heavy scheme down the stretch. The Vikings allow the most passing yards per game at over 287, and I do expect the Colts' primary guy to take a decent chunk of that average. Finally, let's go to tight ends. There will be some more picks, too. I've got start 2, sit 1. I have a start 2, sit 1 slate coming out for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, all going out tomorrow. They might be a little bit of overlap, but for the most part, there'll be new picks. Dalton Schultz against Jacksonville. Schultz, he's getting volume, and he's really just checking off all 3 boxes of what we want in a player: availability, opportunity, and productivity. Schultz has averaged 6.7 targets in his last 6 contests, and he has scored in the double digits in 4 of those games. So now he gets to face the Jacksonville defense, allowing the 8th most fantasy points to tight ends. It's very appealing. Again, availability, he's been healthy. Opportunity, 6.7 targets per game in each of the last 6 weeks. That'll do it. Productivity, he has scored in the double digits in 4 of his last 6 games. He's getting that usage. He's seeing that upside. I'll talk as good about him right now as I was talking about Evan Ingram a few weeks ago. Then he kind of went into that dry patch, and 37 points later, not too long ago, we're back on the Evan Ingram train. Let's go to some questions. Got Big Trev in the chat. Make sure you like the video, Big Trev. We're going to get you all the research I can here. Need 2 wide receivers and a flex out of this pool. It's full PPR. T. Higgins, Adam Thielen, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Ramondre Stevenson. It's going to depend on the injury. Rachaad White. Sucks because I can't pivot away from Higgins if he doesn't go. Right. Yeah, that does suck. Okay, so, well, for the flex, I'm typically going to want a pass catcher. Rachaad White's pretty involved in the passing game. You've got some good options for that, actually, because Ramondre Stevenson is very involved in the passing game, too. We're going to need to watch Ramondre Stevenson. And then again, with T. Higgins, we got to watch him, too. So we've really got 2 not great injuries on our hands right now. At very inconvenient times. Thinking maybe put Higgins or Ramondre in the flex unless they don't go, and then pivot to Rachaad. Seems safest. I like that move with Rachaad White, mostly because he is a pass catcher in that limited action he's seen. He's going up against pretty tough defense in Cincinnati, but I think that the Bucs can put up a fight. They need to put up a fight in order to maintain a balanced attack. Otherwise, you'll see the panic pass-heavy game script that most teams go with in the second half of games. I'm thinking we go... I think we need Rachaad White in there because we know he's healthy. DPJ and Thielen, are they going to get enough usage? That's the big thing. Thielen's been getting a decent amount. If we look here, let's cut away on this screen. I was on my waivers, but we're going to jump over to something else really quick. Let's look at the opportunity sector of those 3 factors we love to look at. Hope you all are doing great on this fine Friday evening. There is the number 2 option in Adam Thielen. Getting a little bit less snaps than Justin Jefferson, so the ratio, the target per snap ratio is pretty much, or snap per target ratio, I should say, is pretty much about the same. 63 receptions. He's been doing well. I mean, Justin Jefferson's just on pace for 2,000 yards pretty much. So, you know, Adam Thielen's going to get some volume. Not crazy about it, but considering the other options you have right now, yeah, I'm thinking maybe we pivot, like you said. Well, let me rephrase. I would put DPJ and Thielen in my wide receiver spots. Tyreek is locked. I'm stuck on my flex spot, though. Am I thinking correctly, or should I just throw Higgins out there and hope? Wouldn't just throw him out there. I mean, right? Because you have Higgins in that 325 slot. I'm going to check one thing here for you. Yeah, he's still questionable. He's re-aggravating his hamstring. He was a full participant in practice today. That's a pretty good sign. And Tyler Boyd has a finger injury. So, I mean, we could see a variety of things. We could see T. Higgins in, Tyler Boyd out, vice versa. Tyler Boyd in, T. Higgins out. That'd be a nightmare. Both of them in, both of them out. We don't know. I think with Thielen's usage, DPJ has been fine as well. I was a doubter of him a couple weeks ago. They've got a better matchup this week. It's not great. But the Ravens still do allow a decent amount in their secondary. Yeah, let's go DPJ and Thielen in the wide receiver spots. And then we can kind of play around with the flex spot, like you said. You could do Higgins, you could do Rachaad, you could do Ramondre. I think Rachaad is the most... Look, we've got to see who's available. Those are the 3 factors we always look at: availability, opportunity, and productivity. We know that Rachaad White's been a better, a better pass catcher as of late. I'm thinking we throw Rachaad White in there. You can monitor the T. Higgins status. Last thing you want to do is forget to, slap your alarm clock on and wake up and then, oh, everybody's in and I got to sit with T. Higgins at 325. If we look, like, Rachaad White is basically a wide receiver here. I mean, when we can get 9 receptions, 6 receptions, 5 receptions, 9, 8, and 5 targets. T. Higgins is fighting an injury, and we're not promised that he's going to play the whole game. It's a re-aggravated hamstring injury. What if he aggravates it again mid-game? What if he gets limited snaps when he's on a pitch count? You look, Rachaad White is actually got 20 and 19. Rachaad White's got more catches in the last couple of games than T. Higgins does. You're favored pretty heavily because you had CMC and Kittle. He had Lockett and Ayuk. Lockett's hurt now, so if you're in a Big Trevor, are you in a 2-week playoff format where it's 2 weeks per round? Just wondering, because Lockett's hurt now, so that could help you. And Ayuk as well. Yeah, CMC and Kittle, you're doing pretty good. So, yeah, Kittle's a beast, man. CMC is a guaranteed 20 points. I'm thinking we go Rachaad White. Look at the usage here. We know that he's healthy. We don't have to sweat over Ramondre. We don't have to sweat over T. Higgins. The low usage. This is T. Higgins' numbers. Rachaad White, he's heavily involved in the air. I mean, I really like that. He's taken over that spot ahead of Leonard Fournette. Fournette's still getting some touches, but if we look, here we are. Could not find him for a second. There we go. Okay, so 53, 47. It's pretty split usage right now. Fournette actually had more usage in week 13. Week 14, it was more for White. But White's involvement in the passing game is what really entices me here, and just his health in general. And the fact that he's been more involved in the passing game than a injury-ridden T. Higgins gives me some reassurance. And then you had the extra element, Rachaad White, getting a decent amount of touches on the ground, even since Lenny came back as well. 4.3 yards a carry against San Francisco is pretty commendable, especially considering this team got blown out, and usually you don't run the ball a whole lot after that point. He's still got his 18 touches. So I like the high volume. I like the pass-catching ability. Let's be safe and have Rachaad White. Just 1 week, okay? Let's go Rachaad White. He's still very involved. There's no reason Rachaad White should have been as involved as he was in that blowout unless he's a pivotal part of this offense, and that's clearly what the Buccaneers see him as. So Big Trev, let's go Rachaad White. Any other questions we got, guys? I'm going to go back here. Some of the people you definitely want to keep an eye on with the easiest fantasy schedules down the road. It's interesting because 4 of these 5 might not be too appealing. I think Brock Purdy's an interesting pickup, to be honest with you. He's got the easiest remaining schedule. Nobody really has extensive film on him. They've got, 2+ weeks to work with now. Mike White's a good one, too, but he's hurt. Lamar Jackson's a no-brainer, especially with his ability on the ground. Davis Mills is in a pretty bad offense, and it's actually Kyle Allen's offense now. Russ is getting cooked. Yeah, if you go down the line, it's not the best options. Watson and Pickett. The fact Allen's mid to high right now, especially with the tough schedule that he had at the beginning of the year, shows there's definitely some upside there. And then you've got some guarantee starts like Jalen Hurts. Don't think we should be too worried about Tua, Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow. Jared Goff, I'd call him a automatic start as well. Another 3-touchdown game to his name last week. Something that we would definitely be interested in terms of just a plug-and-play quarterback. Again, we don't have to be in love with these guys long-term. We want people who are going to have a good couple of weeks because this is where it matters. This is where you win your money in those fantasy money leagues. Alvin Kamara is one. Donovan Knight is somebody who we said was a must pick up. In terms of waiver wire a couple weeks ago, we're seeing how he's performing now. That's been super enticing. Isaiah Pacheco, he's got one of his great matchups this week against Houston. Weak run defense, like we mentioned before. You're probably going to beat Houston, so you go to a run-heavy scheme at the end. Lots to like about that. And then automatic starts in Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry. A lot of people saying, stick with your studs. I wouldn't exactly sit by that entirely. Like, Travis Etienne's been a stud, right? But he's struggled the last couple of weeks. And now he's got one of the tougher, it's a mid-tier, strength of schedule fantasy-wise. But if somebody's got like the hardest schedule out there, Josh Jacobs, I feel like that might be the exception. So what I would classify as a stud is probably the top 3 or 4 at every position. So we're talking Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler. If we go quarterbacks, we're talking Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. Wide receivers, we're talking Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson. Tight ends, we're talking your Mark Andrews, your George Kittle, your Travis Kelce. But outside of those, I'm not too eager to start somebody if they have a horrible matchup. And if there's a mid-tier running back one or, fill in the position here later on who has a better matchup, I'm probably going to go with them. You know what? You guys can do this with me. I'm going to do it by myself unless people have suggestions. I haven't done the hurdle yet. This is always fun. Just keep asking it's the Weddle, isn't it? Yep, that was NBA. That's funny. Keep asking those fantasy questions. I'm just going to go through this real quick. If you guys haven't played this before, it's basically Wordle, and then you get a ton of hints in all the categories. You'll see. Let's start out with, we were just talking about Ramondre Stevenson. Yellow means you're close. Green means you're spot on. Red means you're not even close. So we know it's definitely not the Patriots, but they're in the AFC East. So we've got the Jets, the Bills, and the Dolphins. It's not a running back. This is going to be an offensive player. He's taller, older, and has a lower number. I'm thinking quarterback then. I'm not, maybe a wide receiver. But, yeah, if he's older than 24, let's go Josh Allen. Okay. How old is... Oh, is this going to be... Shouldn't be Joe Flacco. You really reaching into the depth here? Nope. Is Mike White really that old? He is. Mike White's 27. Okay. And then this is the hard version. You just go here, and it's anybody in the league, so... Let's try Quintez Cephas. It's a wide receiver in the NFC North. That's pretty nice. Older than 24. Yeah. Let's go Adam Thielen. Hopefully I'm not spoiling this for anybody. I usually do it at this time. So we've got Tino in the chat. Tino, I can answer your questions here. Older. All right. Keel Harry. Chicago wide receiver that's older. Dante Pettis. Yep. All right, that was fun. Maybe I'll do that every time. What's up, bro? Getting ready for my show. Want to stop by, give a few questions. Nick Chubb or Aaron Jones. Always appreciate you stopping in, Tino. Nick Chubb or Aaron Jones, and do I even think of sitting Andrews, or do you think I'm good to start him? As long as Andrews is healthy, I think he's one of those studs you've constantly got to start. If we look at Mark Andrews' matchup, it's not the easiest, obviously, but I'm looking at his usage as of late. Just pull that up. The Browns have a decent secondary. Thank you all for stopping in. Make sure you leave a like right away. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. I'll get to your questions, and if you get value out of this, make sure that you spread the word. We're trying to grow this audience as much as possible so I can help as many people as possible out-research their opponent. So spread the word to everyone except maybe your fantasy opponent for this week. You can tell them about it later because you don't want them getting the same advice. But if you have the right players, it won't really matter. Mark Andrews is still getting... We're talking 7 targets a game. I was just talking about why I like Dalton Schultz. 7 targets a game over the course of the last few games. It's pretty reliable. He's still the fill-in wide receiver 1. I mean, I say fill-in. He's a tight end, but he really is the number 1 option. I think we got to go with Mark Andrews here. Yeah, we got to go with Mark Andrews. And then Nick Chubb or Aaron Jones. See Chubb going up against the Ravens. You're going to run the ball a lot more in a game that you're going to win. I'm not going to say with confidence that I think Cleveland can pull the upset off. And Packers, Rams. Let's look at some run defenses here, shall we? And if you guys are just stopping in, I'm not doing waiver wire live streams for the last couple of weeks because we're not trying to get people who can just scrape into your bench and maybe develop over time. We need those established starters. We need guys who are getting good matchups and are going to win you games now because down the road, there is no down the road. You're in the playoffs. So we're kind of focusing on those optimal matchups. If you weren't here before, those optimal matchups are Justin Herbert, Isaiah Pacheco, Keenan Allen, Michael Pittman, Dalton Schultz, and Ramondre Stevenson, if healthy. If healthy. Aaron Jones going up against the Los Angeles Rams. 4.0 yards a carry. We know what they can do with that interior D-line. Aaron Donald is pretty disruptive. Leonard Floyd and that front seven's pretty disruptive as well. I would call Chubb a better all-around back by a decent amount. Cincinnati allowing a little bit more on the ground. I'm going to go Nick Chubb. More established. He's been getting a bulk of those carries. He's not really competing with anybody for the touches out of the backfield. A.J. Dillon, while he hasn't been doing wonderful, he still does get touches if we look at the Packers player target usage here. So Chubb's got a better matchup, and he gets more usage. I'm not sure we could say with confidence that the Packers win that game against the Rams. And Jones is battling an injury. Things I forgot to mention for 500. Ankle injury. We got to watch that. So now, Tino, we're not promised that Aaron Jones is going to play the entire game. We're not promised that Aaron Jones is going to get all the usual snaps. So I think we have our answer there. We've got a healthier Nick Chubb. No question that he should play the whole game as long as he stays healthy. There's not as much competition as you could see. It's like a 60-40 split right now, kind of guesstimating here. And he's got a better matchup. Let's go Nick Chubb over Aaron Jones. And depending on your other options, I would still say it's Mark Andrews. He's still a top 3 tight end in the fantasy market. Legacy, welcome in, man. Hi, I was wondering, would you play Mike Williams over Higgins since he's been injured? We're not even sure if T. Higgins is going to play. I'd play Mike Williams. I can also play Mike Evans over him. So Mike Evans going... Mike Evans going against that Bengals secondary. Might not be the best, but I could see the Bengals winning this, so then Tampa Bay goes to a throw-heavy scheme down the stretch. So basically the two Mikes or Higgins. I'm going to take Mike Williams against a Tennessee secondary that allows the most fantasy points to wide receivers. I said that Keenan Allen had a great matchup this week. I said the same thing with Justin Herbert. I'll go even deeper into this team and say the wide receiver 2 and Mike Williams, who's really a wide receiver 1 at sometimes, is a start. So he's got the best matchup. He's healthy. That's another reason I don't want to wait out on this 325 game with T. Higgins. Because, again, if somebody's hurt, guys, and they play, we're not promised that they're going to have all their snaps. Let's go with the health and the great matchup in Mike Williams. Mike Evans, it's fine, but it's not the best matchup against Cincinnati. George, welcome in. Also, you have Swift. You know, if we're talking about, this is probably a flex play. I want a distinct pass catcher. Yes, Swift is a pass catcher, but he's not getting the same amount of snaps that a Mike Williams or a Mike Evans would have when they're out pretty much every single snap. Swift is not getting as many snaps as Jamal Williams on a consistent basis. Deontay Foreman or J.K. Dobbins? So Dobbins going up against the Browns. Foreman's got the Steelers on his slate, so let's look at strength of opposition. And if you're just stopping in, make sure you leave a like, make sure you subscribe. We are helping you out research your opponent as we get into the fantasy football playoffs. Let me know what your record is, what your matchup looks like, format of your league, and any questions you have. We are at pi amount of subscribers now. We're at 314. Thank you all so much. Let's see. Talking Foreman or Dobbins. Foreman going up against the Steelers. Why can I not see? Oh, they're right up here. Okay, Steelers. Then Dobbins going up against the Browns. Browns not allowing, or not having nearly as much success in terms of the run defense category, allowing nearly 5 yards per carry. We saw what Dobbins did last week. Dobbins had one of the most efficient weeks we've seen of a running back all year. So I might be leaning in that AFC North matchup direction. Another running back out of Ohio State doing very well. 15 attempts for 120 yards on the ground. Had a rushing touchdown as well. Not very involved in the passing game. Not really worried about that, to be honest, because when you're as efficient as he has been when he gets a decent amount of touches, I mean, 2 of the last 3 games, look at what he's done. He's coming off a hiatus. He's got the fresh legs. I'm going to go with J.K. Dobbins here. And he was decently involved in the passing game before he got hurt, so we'll see if he can hit that gear. But he's got a great matchup against Cleveland, and that's what this video is all about. Who has the great matchup and who can perform in this week? Dobbins got north of 15 points last week, and I think he can do very well against this Browns team. Just 24 career catches for him, but I still think he's got a great shot. What other questions we got, guys? Make sure you pop in. Leave a like. Step 1. Subscribe. Step 2. Step 3. Ask your questions. Step 4. Win in week 15 and move on. What fantasy seed are you guys? And what's your record? Let me know what your situation is here as we head into week 15 of fantasy action. In the meantime, I'll keep going over some streamers. Defense, if you do not have the Chiefs, they have one of the easiest remaining schedules I have seen. Most people have taken notice of this one. And again, if you are just joining, I did have finals in the last week, so my streams were a little shorter, but I'm still trying to get out those couple of live streams a week. I'm on break now, so you're going to get a lot more content out of me, but just wanted to stress it, folks. Even if I'm getting busy, it's not an excuse. I'm still going to make plenty of time to put out content for you because all of you are taking time out of your busy schedule to consume my content. So I appreciate you all a ton. I'm going to continue to grind and get all this out for you. Do some record-breaking research here, ground-breaking research, try and get you as much as I can. Let's look. I'm pretty sure that Chiefs ownership rate has skyrocketed. Yeah, 80% own them now. And they're going to keep going up in the rankings, too. They're actually 11th. They were in the mid-20s before. But again, folks, I'm going to be doing a couple live streams a week, plenty of shorts. And as the fantasy football season starts to wrap up, you'll see me doing videos like top 5 quarterbacks that you can draft for the next 5 years. Same for the running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, those guys who can fill in the flex position. I'll also be doing fantasy gold mines. I'll be looking at teams like the Chargers and the Vikings and tell you, you can probably draft these 5 people and be fine. Maybe not all of them because, they're not going to have a great game at the same time, but any of these 5 on each team. We'll be talking about different contracts, guys who I believe are locked into optimal situations, supposed to get help around them. We're going to dive into the rookie class, and then get ready, folks. I'm going to do a 0 to hero series. I'm going to draft quite possibly the worst team I can. I'll take Nathan Peterman first overall if you guys want me to. And we'll live stream that. And I'm going to show all of you it's possible to scrape across a few wins and succeed strictly through the free agency and trade market. I am going to draft all backups, the worst possible team I can. In the ESPN projection tab, I'm going to make sure I am last. It'll probably be a 10, 12, 14 team league. And I'm going to try and grind across some wins. Just to show all of you, if you have a horrible draft, it's not over. It's all about how you respond, how you react. I'm going to be jumping all over waivers, putting all my fantasy notifications on to make sure if a certain backup is in. I'm probably going to be first in the waiver wire order for a bit, so that'll help me work my way back up too. But that should be a huge series. I'm going to do some leagues with you guys as well. Do some general sports reporting. Keep you guys informed on the rest of the sports world. Have some other interaction going, but should have a lot of fun here. Chiefs streaming defense. What else can we look at for you? Love to always go and flex. Who can we use at a variety of positions here? That just kind of covers, well, about half of what you need. Let's go all and just look at roster percentage here. Yeah, James Robinson really fell off. DPJ continues to not be owned by many. I wasn't wishing on his downfall or anything. I was just saying he didn't look too good going into a couple weeks ago after the Tampa Bay performance. Houston has a great secondary. Watson was shaking off some rust. He actually looks like the better target right now over Amari Cooper. He's being used more, so you're going to see his ownership percentage go up. He's got some nice matchups against the Washington secondary, the New Orleans secondary, and the Baltimore secondary. Pittsburgh will be a little bit tough. But I like DPJ a lot. He's owned in less than half of leagues. James Cook is getting some more usage. I just don't think he's going to round out in time to be playoff usable. It's him and Devin Singletary right now. We cannot have a performance like this in the playoffs. That's unacceptable. This is pretty fun. 20 total touches. Got 6 through the air. But we can't rely on it. He's got some nice matchups coming up in that he is playing against the Miami Dolphins, the Chicago Bears, but then he's got some tough ones in what would likely be your championship against the Bengals and Patriots. And Mooney's obviously out. We've lost some really tough people, especially ones that we kind of picked up halfway through the season. Was a big Rondale Moore guy for about 3 to 4 weeks. He's on IR. Hayden Hurst was the number 2 target on the Bengals for a while. Things we did not expect for 500. Kadarius Toney, that move was supposed to be groundbreaking. Had a great game against Jacksonville. Even got involved on the ground. Allen Robinson was supposed to have a resurgence. Once Cooper Kupp went down, he went down right after. Got Brian. Corey just made the playoffs. Apparently, I play the same team twice. Does that work towards my advantage? Again, first-time player. Yeah, Brian, so you're in a 2-week format. I'm in this too, where you play against somebody for weeks 15 and 16, and then your next matchup's going to be 17 and 18. You just need to make sure that you're catering and having a lineup that's going to sustain you for 2 weeks. Your lineup's going to unlock in between this week and the next week. So it's just, you got to make sure, and some people forget this. They think, oh, I'm moving on to play somebody else. You've got to get every possible point you can, man. Go and stream those defenses. Look for those great matchups. Brian, since you're just joining, I'll make sure I go over everything for you, and this goes for anybody else who's just joined. We've got Justin Herbert, Isaiah Pacheco, Ramondre Stevenson, Keenan Allen, Michael Pittman, and Dalton Schultz. Those are guys I would start. They've got phenomenal matchups, weak defenses, high usages of late. Brian, I'm not sure it works into anybody's favor. It can work into yours as long as you monitor your lineup. It just means you're going to have a culmination of points between this week and next week. So if you lose this week, it's not over. If you win this week, don't let your foot off the gas. Just remember to continue to keep the pedal on the metal and capitalize on those great matchups. My roster rundown is as follows. Jalen Hurts, Christian McCaffrey, there we go. My goodness. James Conner, Jamal Williams, Raheem Mostert as running backs. Wide receivers are going to be CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Chris Olave, Christian Watson, and George Pickens. I'm interested in Christian Watson. I just don't like the fact we have to wait until Monday night to find out if he performs or not. Against that Rams team, Christian Watson has had at least 20 fantasy points in a standard PPR format in each of the last 4 weeks. I'm a pretty big fan of that. But yeah, I'm not sure it's really to anybody's advantage. You just got to make sure you set your lineups. Understand that you are not in the clear after 1 week. Try and capitalize on anything in between the weeks and understand that your lineup doesn't lock. Very, very nice roster, Brian, though. Congrats on making the playoffs. What was your record, man? I can actually show you because mine is formatted this way as well. It's a pretty common format if you have I'm in a smaller 10-team league here. If you have a 4-team playoff format. Oh, it's not going to show here. Yeah, here it is. So it's weeks 15 and 16, and then weeks 17 and 18. So that's just something you got to remember. Do not let your foot off the gas. If you lose, don't uninstall the app. Just stay with it. Hey, animals in the chat. Hey, Corey, what's up? Nothing much. What about you, man? How are you doing? How is your fantasy team doing? That's the question we want to know as well. I can keep going through streams here for you guys. Here we go. Record was 8 and 6. I made silly decisions each week. I lost 4 of my 6 by 15 points or less, so you've had some close ones. My recent free agency pickups are Zay Jones and Brian Robinson Jr. I don't think they will crack my starting lineup. Yeah, I'm seeing some phrases, and I addressed this about 15-20 minutes ago, where people say stick to your studs. Now, I would classify studs as the top 3 to 5 of each position, so you're talking your Patrick Mahomes, your Josh Allen, your Jalen Hurts, and then, apply that logic across running backs, wide receivers and tight ends as well. I don't think they should crack your lineup either, especially if Christian Kirk is healthy. Marvin Jones Jr.'s in there. Evan Ingram just had a 37 fantasy point performance that I don't think many of us saw coming. But 8-6 is not bad, man. I won my championship last year. I won my first. Was it my first? I think it was my first money league. I was doing a lot of free ones for a while. I've done a few since then, but yeah, I won my first money league ever with an 8-6 record as well. And then I won my championship last year at 8-6. Good free agency pickups. You saw the high volume with Zay Jones. That's very important. You just want guys who are getting used. You know, who's getting the opportunities. And then who's thriving with those opportunities, because that's when Doug Peterson's going to go, hey, I want to use him more. Zay Jones is a great pickup. He's getting more usage than Christian Kirk. Evan Ingram just had a monster game, 15 targets too. But you can see here, there's room for Zay Jones. He's got a higher catch rate than Christian Kirk. It's always going to be a higher catch rate for these tight ends unless they're garbage. No, that's good, man. Brian Robinson got more involved in the passing game as of late. Hey Animal says, I lost this past week. Now I need to win and the guy ahead of me to lose to get in the playoffs. All right. Does the guy ahead of you have an easy matchup? And do you have an easy matchup? How's that looking? Like, how probable is it, do you think, that you can win and then they also lose? Never say never, man. You're still in it. Brian Pereira says, started out hot. Thanks to you. I appreciate it. That's partially you, Brian. You're still using your discretion. And then kept going back and forth with Williams versus Connor versus Olave as a flex each week. I would play one while the other two would do better. You know, with a flex, usually I want a pass catcher, right? So that's going to be Olave. Jamal Williams he's great, and he gets the most red zone touches of anybody else, so I liked that as well. But Olave is going to get those catches in the PPR format that's going to get you the extra points. Doesn't help that the tight end position is so volatile. Yeah, volatile. Njoku went down, and I was streaming different tight ends each week. When Njoku went down, I got punished, too. I was going after Dolchich. I was going after a couple other options. I had Bellinger for a bit. You know, a tight end in a run-heavy offense is never optimal. He's typically going to be used in run-blocking schemes. I'm close, but he's loaded. All right, well, any start-sit questions you have at all for me, Hey Animal? I'll probably be on for the next 10 to 15 minutes, folks, and then I'm going to get off. Who here watches basketball? While I am answering your questions, I want to do the Purtle as well. I just did the NFL Weddle, where you guess what the player of the day is, and they give you different hints. Let me know if you guys have any guesses. I'm going to do the Purtle. Let's go... let's go Brogdon. Nope! I don't know if you guys know how this game works, but that was my first guess, and I got the right team, the right conference, the right division, obviously, the right position, and the right height. That's actually pretty cool. Oh, okay, let's address more of your questions, then I'll go back to this. Oh, you watch college basketball, not NBA. What do we think of Indiana, Hey Animal? I've got a friend he's a Hoosier, and he is so positive that team's going to win the entire thing. Mahomes or Fields? Fields coming off, I mean, he's always coming off the injury. He's just shaken up in general. Fields going up against the Eagles is not something I'm a big fan of, for being honest. Mahomes against the Texans. Yes, the Texans are one of 5 teams that don't allow a passing touchdown per game, but I think Mahomes can be one of those exceptions. He's one of those staples you can't bench. The fact you have Mahomes and Fields, Hey Animal, is great. So let's go with Mahomes. Better matchup. Way better matchup. I mean, the Eagles, I would say the Eagles, the 49ers, and the Bills, and maybe the Patriots. Those are 4 defenses. When I see them, I'm like, we got to bench this guy unless he is of a very select few. Fields had a hot stretch, but he's not in the realm of Mahomes yet. Mahomes is the better player. He's got the better matchup. Let's not overthink this one. Prey says, bad news for me in the playoffs. My wide receiver 1 is Lockett. My wide receiver 2 is Lockett, Prey, so I am with you. I'm going Mahomes. I agree. Was Ingram's explosion this week just a one-off? Never saw that type of output coming. Of course, I had him on my bench when he had his crazy game. Still had Njoku pull it out for me in the end. Yeah, Njoku had 15 plus. You know, anytime somebody excels in that type of role, you want to look at the entire context of it. So here. By the way, let's see how good you guys are at this. Name the player. It's clearly not Tatum. It's clearly not Brown. It's not Brogdon. The fact I was that close on my first one is pretty funny to me. So we're looking at run-pass ratio right now, and if we look at Jacksonville, they're right in the middle. They throw the ball 58% of the time. They run it 42% of the time. Might only miss one game. Well, that's good. I'm in a 2-week... The format I work in the playoffs is every round is 2 weeks. So just got to get through this, and then hopefully he's healthy for me and I can get the championship. But it's going to be tough. Marcus Smart. Let's do it. You genius. Did you already do it, or did you know? Yeah, 36. 6'4" guard. That kind of narrows it down, doesn't it? You need somebody younger. He was Oklahoma State, I believe. Just make sure I'm getting through everybody's questions here. So was Ingram's explosion this week just a one-off? This is for Brian. You know, it's a high passing offense, relatively. They're in the middle of the league in terms of that. It's a passing league now. It's very rare you see somebody who runs the ball more than they pass it. We actually only see that in 7 teams. Chicago runs it 62% of the time. That's insane. I would say the 37 points is a one-off. You know, Evan Ingram still has a lot of usage. I think he's a top 10 tight end, like fringe top 10. He had some drop issues before. They haven't been as bad this year. He's a big target. He showed what he can do. I think it's definitely considered a one-off in terms of just that level of production. I don't think he's going to get 15 targets. I think he could still get like the ballpark of 7 or 8. We've seen that before. That's not foreign. But you got to understand, Tennessee allows the most fantasy points to wide receivers, and it's bottom 10 in fantasy points allowed to tight ends as well. So he played one of the weakest defenses. He absolutely mossed a guy. So I'd say it's definitely a one-off. He's still a quality tight end, and I think he'll have some more targets. I don't think you can ignore a guy like that who has a monster game going forward, especially when Jacksonville's technically not out of the playoffs. They need to win out. I think he gets more targets, but that explosive performance is definitely a one-off. And Njoku took care of business, right? Johnny D says, Corey, I saw your live stream last week. I would definitely be interested in seeing you do that replacements team where you upgrade through trades. It sucks that my league hardly had deals going. Yeah, a lot of people are in those situations, so I'm basically just going to use that as an experimental league, guys. I'm going to drop on at least once a week, and I'm just going to keep trying to fix that 0-to-hero team. I'm going to take a picture of the team after I draft them, and it's going to be some of the most garbage stuff you have ever seen. You know, who should I draft first overall, guys? Or not first overall. It'd be funny if I got first overall. For those of you who are just dropping in, I have an idea where I'm basically going to draft the worst team I possibly can. I'm going to go into free agency. I'm going to go into the trade market, and I'm going to try and win as much as I can in the league, maybe even scrape into the playoffs through trades and through free agency. That's all I can do because I'm going to draft bad. Who should I draft in the first round? I was thinking Nathan Peterman, but it's got to be a backup. My rules are it has to be a backup, and then for defense, you can't get a backup defense. So I'm going to grab the 32nd defense in the draft, and then that way I let everybody else get whatever defense they want. And then as soon as the draft is done, I go into free agency immediately, and I start grabbing people. So let me know. Trace McSorley. I like it. That'll be it, Prey. I'll get McSorley. I'm going to have the chat open, too, in the league that I'm in. So people are going to be like, who took this man's phone? Trace McSorley. And then, yeah, the rule is as soon as that draft is done, I don't have to wait any weeks. I don't have to do any of that. I'm making moves. I'm going to do it relatively close to the beginning of the season. I don't think it's fair if I do it in like April and then a starting quarterback gets hurt and I go, oh, there's the backup before the season starts. I'm not going to do that. Same with like running backs or wide receivers. So I'm going to draft pretty close to the season, but that's something I'm looking forward to. Or Jeff Driscoll. Young Hoku is your first pick. I'm going to take some... Here. I'll put McSorley, Gold, Young Hoku, Houston defense, and Jeff Driscoll in there. I don't think I can do Houston defense because first overall, maybe I'll do it. I want to pick the worst defense, though, because, hey, Animal, I have to pick backups of every position. You can't pick a backup in defense, so I want to pick literally the 32nd ranked defense by the end of this year. So I might not be able to do that, but we'll go Trace McSorley. We got Robbie Gold. Jeff Driscoll. It's got to be basically with the exception of kickers and defenses. I could even do a backup kicker if I want to start that rock bottom. If you want to see me projected to score 20-something points. My rules are I pick all backups except for kicker and defense. I guess I could pick a starter, but defense has to be 32nd overall. And then from there, I just move. Let's see what other questions we got. I've never done that game before. Oh, okay. It's pretty fun, man. They changed it every single day. It was going to be smarter Derek White. Derek White was a good bench piece going into the finals last year. It's my wide receiver core without Lockett good. I'm in a 2-flex league. I've got Sutton, Juju, Godwin, McLaurin, and Slayton. I would say so. Cortland Sutton's going to be getting a decent amount of catches when he comes back. Judy's kind of getting more. We got to watch the Russell Wilson injury now. Juju Smith-Schuster is the wide receiver 1. He's technically the second option because he's obviously behind Travis Kelce. Chris Godwin is the wide receiver 1 over Mike Evans. He's gotten way more usage as of late. Scary Terry is getting way more than Curtis Samuel. Darius Slayton's in a run-heavy offense, but he's a good deep bench option. So, Frey, that's actually really good. I think you're okay without Lockett. You have a good, like, even-keeled. It's not like you lost to Justin Jefferson and then you didn't have anybody behind him. You have a very balanced lineup, so I like it a lot. Johnny says, what is going on in the league? Ingram had a great game, and Russell Wilson had an amazing game. Russell Wilson and Evan Ingram went up against horrible defenses, okay? Russ went up against the Chiefs. I was telling everybody to start Jerry Jeudy. He dropped 33 in standard PPR. I did not tell people to start Evan Ingram, and he went off and... Somebody in this chat last week asked me, they asked me Njoku or Ingram, and I said, let's stream Ingram because Njoku's hurt. I forget who it was. It might have been Brian, and that's okay. Njoku did fine. Did not call Evan Ingram doing that, but he was going up against a Tennessee team that allows plenty of points. Hannibal says, I tried to trade for Cooper all year. Glad I didn't get him. Yeah, DPJ seems like the guy now with Deshaun Watson. I wasn't sure. I wanted to hold off on everybody until we realized what Watson was doing. Small sample size. You never know. I usually use both my flex spots with a wide receiver. You want to do that, right? You want the pass catchers in there in PPR. Cole Beasley? Beckham Jr. So Odell's going to be on a team, though. Antonio Brown. Is Antonio Brown going to show up? I'll do it. Yeah, folks, I'll put the rules up too, but it's got to be backups. So Odell's going to be on a team by then. He'll be healthy by March. I want to do some leagues with you guys too. Thoughts on me starting a Discord? I can do that. Go in different chats and just debate topics, even when I'm not live. I can let you guys know when I will be live, so you get like the extra notification. Although if you hit that bell, you'll get the notification too. But I want to get more interactive with you. I don't just want to talk to you through comment sections, which I do answer those all the time. So if you have any questions that pop up after this stream, just pop those in the comment section of this video once it's archived, or really anything on the channel, and I can get back to you. What are we looking for? Antonio Brown. All right, let's see. Oh, jeez. I'll draft Antonio Brown. So I've got Trace McSorley, Robbie Gould, Jeff Driscoll, Antonio Brown. They just have to be backups. So I can't do OBJ. Unless he ends up, like, not being on a team yet. Honestly, I'll let you guys, like, tell me as we're going, hey, who do I draft next? It's got to be a backup. If you give me one in live time, I'll pick one, but... And I could pick all these guys, right? Doesn't have to be first round. No, I don't think anyone's going to fight me for Antonio Brown. Cole Beasley is one. Cole Beasley just got re-signed, didn't he? By the Bills. Or is that a fever dream? Next week, would you start Juju versus the Seahawks or Sutton versus the Rams? Let's look at strength of opposition, pray. Antonio Brown is available. How about that? You know, it's such a bad offense in Denver that kind of just want to lean Juju right away. Seahawks and Rams. Allowing pretty much the same thing. 11 yards apart. 218 for one, 229 for the other. Don't forget, I still got Henry and CMC, Corey. Yeah, that's a pretty good team, man. I think you'll be all right. Someone dropped Sutton, so I picked him up. Smart. Johnny says, Corey, what were your fantasy surprises and disappointments this season? Great question, Johnny. I'm going to do some videos on this as well in the offseason, but surprise, I think this goes for anybody. Geno Smith has been phenomenal. Like, absolutely phenomenal. Another good surprise. I think Isaiah Pacheco. I didn't see him taking over that quickly. I thought it was CEH's backfield. There were a lot of people talking about him. The potential that we saw out of Breece Hall, him actually capitalizing, that was a surprise to me. Juju Smith-Schuster acclimating so well as the wide receiver one was a surprise to me. Disappointments, Jonathan Taylor is the number one disappointment of fantasy football in 2022. Matt Ryan, I thought he was going to do a little bit better. He was putting up decent numbers in Atlanta behind a bad offensive line. I mean, look at this crap. I'll look it up right now. It ticks me off. I thought he was a good depth pickup. Luckily, I didn't start this channel while I was saying that. But, I mean, this is behind a horrible offensive line. He was top 5 in pressures and sacks for a couple of years. Like, what? Where is it? Sorry. 26 and 14, 26 and 11, 20 and 12, 13 and 13. He has more interceptions than he's had since 2015. He's got a better offensive... Well, it's supposed to be a better offensive line. That whole thing is just horrible. Other disappointments. Another surprise. Justin Fields really taking that step forward. I thought he was great, but I thought we wouldn't really see his potential unfold until he got an offensive line and some weapons. He has neither right now. Yeah. So, surprises. Geno Smith and Justin Fields. Disappointments, Matt Ryan, Jonathan Taylor. Derrick Henry for about 2 weeks was scaring me, but we can't classify him as that. He's been phenomenal. There's another one. Curtis Samuel had an exciting stint for a bit. That was a good surprise. Disappointments, Carson Wentz no longer having his job. Usually he's a really good volume passer. He's a good fantasy guy. He's going to get you lots of yards in garbage time, that type of thing. Mike White is a big one. Yeah, and that just got brought up by Prey. Those are kind of my surprises and disappointments, Johnny. Does anything stick out to you at all? And again, folks, I'm doing 5 quarterbacks you should start for the next 5 years. Same with running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. I'm going to analyze certain teams that I think are fantasy gold mines, that type of thing. So we've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up for the offseason. I can do the baseball one, too. I was doing the Pirtle for, it's called the MLB Pickle. It's the same thing where you try and pick a player. I started Ingram and Juju last week. Cowboys are supposed to be picking Odell up. That's what I heard this season. I just saw a report this morning that he would be hurt possibly until March, so they might be holding off on that. Pickens killed me. Yeah. Pickens was complaining about low usage as well. Can't believe the Jets are starting Zach Wilson again. Keep White. Zach Wilson is a huge disappointment in real life. IRL. Yeah, Mike White's just battling an injury right now. His doctors wouldn't clear him, so that's why. Otherwise, I think it's Mike White's team. I mean, guys are wearing Mike White shirts. All right, baseball fans, let's do this, because this is something I might do in future streams. Keep popping those fantasy football questions in the chat, but let's do this this is still a fantasy football chat. Don't worry. I'm just doing this while I answer your questions. Let's go Trey Turner. Hello? Oopsie. Okay, ready, USA, not in the NL West. Let's go AL Central. Ooh. He's on the White Sox. Ooh, do I know my Sox players? That's Abreu just got traded. All right, folks, who is this? No cheating. But for my first rounders next year, I'm going between Trace McSorley, Robbie Gould, Jeff Driscoll, Antonio Brown, and Cole Beasley. I might put out a vote on that. But like I said, I'll do this a couple months into the offseason, and then we'll just go from there, because I do want to have some time to try and fix that team. But I'll draft when you guys start too, so probably like July or August. I usually draft then. Wilson needs to hang up his jersey. Yeah, I kind of agree. Not gonna lie. Is it Cease? Oh. That's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. 3 tries. That's pretty impressive. I don't know if I've done it in 3 before. I might have. I think I got Anthony Rizzo in like 2 or 3 one time. Yeah, but lots of exciting content coming up in the offseason for you guys. Plenty of exciting content in the forms of live streams. Keep an eye out for the YouTube shorts I'll have going up tomorrow. It's going to be a Start 2 Sit 1 series once again at quarterback, at running back, at wide receiver, and at tight end. You can laugh, but I think Detroit is going to make the playoffs, and I think they do some damage. Yeah, no, I'm not going to laugh at that at all. Detroit's a real threat. At 6-7, they just took out a Minnesota team that was supposed to run through a lot of NFC teams. They exposed their bad defense. I just done it first try. Oh, good one. Good one. Yeah, I wonder who helped. But you can laugh, but I once got Devontae Adams first try for the what is it? The NFL Weddle. Detroit needs some defense and they'd be top tier. You know, they went after Okuda, they got Hutchinson. I think they just really needed to shore up that linebacking core. Get a couple years under him. No, I think Detroit, I think 8 wins could get him in. So they're 6-7 right now. They got to go 2-2. I'm sure they'd prefer to go 3-1, finish up 9-8. That would get him in. No, the fact they took out a definite playoff and maybe not Super Bowl contender quite yet, but they could be in Minnesota is huge. A lot of people are trashing that Minnesota defense. Yes, they allow the most passing yards of any team per game. Remember we were talking about Lions point spread? Yeah, I remember that. Have you done the NFL game one yet? Yeah, I have. I have, so I can't do it again. It'll show it. I think my league is a redraft league, but it will suck losing Jalen Hurts and CMC. Some leagues have keepers. I don't know if you have that at all, like where you can keep 2 or 3 guys. We were surprised Lions were favored. I do remember that. And then they showed up. So this is what I was saying before. A lot of people are trashing the Vikings because, you know, defense is allowed 287 yards a game. That's pretty bad. Through the air. Total would be good. But the Lions, when they're healthy, are a great team, guys. You know, Jared Goff is having one of his best years of his career. It's his 3rd best year of his career out of like 7 or 8 seasons. There's Amon St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, DJ Chark, Jamison Williams got a touchdown in his first real game back where he actually got like snaps for once. Coming off the ACL injury in that Alabama game. DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams being the 1-2 punch out of the backfield. They've got 2 starting running backs. Even after they gave up TJ Hawkinson, which still confuses me. I think they'd be a lot better with them still. It's just the defense, right? You know, if they go up against the 49ers, which would probably be what happens, or the Eagles, if they end up getting one of those last seeds, they're going to get killed. But if they were to run into like the Seahawks who are petering out, who again, I mean, they're going to be around the same seed right now, that would be interesting to me. I drafted Mahomes and Hurts. I picked up Fields and traded Hurts for Josh Jacobs. You're just wheeling and dealing, aren't you? No, that's really good. Those are all quality players. If you've got 2 great quarterbacks, go get Josh Jacobs. That's awesome. So, folks, I think we're going to wrap it up there. I'm going to try and do some more free-flowing stuff. I think you guys enjoyed the MLB Pickle, the NFL Weddle, and the NBA Purtle. They all have different names. They're just plays on Wordle. But if you have any other questions, make sure you pop them in the chat here. Pop them in the chat in other videos. We've got YouTube Shorts coming up, the Star 2 Sit 1 series going on throughout Saturday. And then, of course, we'll have some more live streams next week throughout the rest of the playoffs, going into the offseason. With that, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes, and good luck to all of you in Week 15. In the beginning, or maybe the middle of your playoffs, let's go win a ring.